Number 12, the bedrock principle. The bedrock principle basically says trust is the foundation of any relationship. George MacDonald said it right when he said, it is a greater compliment to be trusted than to be loved. And the question is, that I must ask myself, am I a trustworthy person? Warren Bennis says, integrity is the basis of trust, which is not so much an ingredient of leadership as it is a product. It is the one quality that cannot be acquired, but must be earned. It is given by co-workers and followers, and without it, the leader cannot function. So 3 truths about trust. Number 1, trust begins with yourself. That's why Shakespeare wrote, this above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. If you're not honest with yourself, you will not be capable of honesty with others. Self-deception is the enemy of relationships. It also undermines personal growth. If a person does not admit his shortcomings, he cannot improve them. It goes back to a principle we've already learned, the mirror principle. The first person we must examine is ourselves. Trust begins with yourself. Number 2, trust cannot be compartmentalized. Cheryl Beale, the wife and friend of a friend and author Bob Beale, says, one of the realities of life is that if you can't trust a person at all points, you can't trust him or her at any point. Goes back to a book I wrote, There's No Such Thing as Business Ethics. Why? Because there's no such thing as business ethics. There's just ethics. You can't compartmentalize ethics. You can't compartmentalize trust. You can't look at your people that work with you and say, you can trust me, and go home with your family and say, you can't trust me. It's got to be trust in all areas. Thirdly, trust works like a bank account. Mike Abershoff, author of It's Your Ship, states, trust is like a bank account. You have got to keep making deposits if you want it to grow. On occasions, things will go wrong and you have to make a withdrawal. Meanwhile, it is sitting in the bank earning interest. It's a great comparison. You've got trust is like a bank account. You've got to be putting something in. And if you and I use the phrase, it's like coins in my pocket. It's like change in my pocket. And I'm either gathering change and having more, or else I'm losing change. And here's what I want you to understand in this area of trust. When you and I fail, if we have been trustworthy and we have made a lot of deposits, we have something we can lean on that will get us through it. But if we're low on our trust change, and we do something wrong, we're bankrupt. So questions to ask yourself. Questions such as, am I making deposits? Think about your most important relationships. Are you exhibiting trustworthy behavior that's putting relational money in the bank? Am I making withdrawals? Have you undermined trust in any of these important relationships? If so, you need to try to make things right. Don't wait another minute to take the appropriate action by doing the following. In other words, if you are withdrawing and you're losing trust, number 1, apologize. Number 2, ask yourself why you broke trust. Spend some time with yourself. And I would also say, if you can't figure that out, go to someone who cares much for you and ask them, why have I broken this trust? Number 3, correct the trust issue in your life. Once you have discovered why you have broken a trust, now let's make some real effort to correct this issue in your life. Number 4, boy, this one is so true. Recognize that it takes longer to restore trust than to lose it. You lose trust, I lose trust quickly. And when I do lose trust, it takes a long time to restore it. Again, in my counseling with people in the area of relationships, that's one of the reasons I've always said, have relationships that are always trustworthy, because if you break that trust in a relationship, You can break that trust very quickly, but it takes a long time to rebuild it. Number 5, remember, trust is restored by deeds, not just words. In other words, doing these things won't earn you new change, but it may stop you from losing more. And you just might save a relationship. A great question to ask is this one. Am I compounding my trust? Mike Krzyzewski, the head coach in basketball at Duke University, offers this advice. If you set up an atmosphere of communication and trust, it becomes a tradition. Older team members will establish your credibility with newer ones. And even if they don't like everything about you, they still say he's trustworthy, he's committed to us in a team. Back in 1978, I had a friend that has been one of my mentors throughout life. His name is Tom Philippi. And I was very, very young and starting to get a little bit of success. And Tom sat down with me one day, I'll never forget, over dinner, and he said, John, he said, you're doing good. And he said, you're going to do very well. And he said, one of the issues that you're going to have that will be the most difficult as you get successful is you're going to always be asking yourself, who can I trust? Why are they around me? What do they want? What's in it for them? And I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, I just want you to know that as you journey in your life, I will always be a trustworthy person for you. You will always be able to trust me. And now that was said to me, oh my goodness, that was said to me in the 70s. That was said to me 30 years ago. And I have found that Tom to be exactly that kind of a friend. It's been tested. His trust has been tested dozens of times. And he's never violated it. And it's been a great encouragement to me to be also that kind of a trustworthy friend to someone else, somebody that they can just trust. In closing on this people principle, writer and chaplain to Queen Victoria, Charles Kingsley, said, a blessed thing it is for any man or woman to have a friend, one human soul, whom we can trust utterly. I love this phrase right here. Who knows the best and the worst of us, and who loves us in spite of all of our faults. Whew. That's a major statement.